All right, everybody, I got him. You've been asking for him, and he finally carved out some time for us. It's everybody's favorite, Wisconsin Brad. And you may remember Brad came on a few months ago, I think it was, talking about how he built automated AI research reports. And the idea was just give a program where you would give a ticker and it would chew through multiple stock charts, valuations, comparables, bull case, bear case, earnings call analysis, and do that all in a systematic, automatic way. And usually took about 3 minutes. And Brad was the mastermind behind this. And I've always felt like, Brad, that you are you're so creative with this, and you're really on the cutting edge of all the people I see of taking this AI and investing to the utter limit. Maybe there's other stuff going on, but I always have a hard time keeping up with the things that we chat and you tell me about the stuff you're building. And so finally, you've carved out some time for us to go over, we can catch up with what you've been doing and around building bots, because this is what everyone's doing, and you have gone nuts on that too, and you wrote about it this week. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. And that's nice, all that nice stuff you said. I just enjoy tinkering with the technology, honestly. And I always wished I had I have a trading background. I wish I had the computer science background. So in this fortunate world, I just decided to dump that on my lap. So I'm trying to use it to the best of my ability.
Now, just for everyone's background, just quickly, as you just said, your background is that you were a futures trader professionally for a long period of time, and so you're very knowledgeable in trading and do this full time for yourself.
Yeah, I've been full time. I got out of Wisconsin, Madison, with a finance, basically from age 22, and I'm almost 45. I've been full time doing this. So what futures was the first 10 or 15 years, and then now it's been stocks a lot more, and sometimes crypto, but mostly stocks. And the last 3 to 5 years, it's really been longer time, more towards the YWR holding period type stuff. And I still use the trading times like now for hedging and things that probably are bad ideas to recommend. But so it's all in there. It all kind of helps. The trading, the investing, the sentiment, the fundamentals, they all work together. But yeah.
So Brad, let's start with, you wrote about all these different things you've built. Let's start. Do you want to start us off with your morning process, your morning analysis, your morning summary?
Yeah. So the body version of me would get up and it would say, okay, I have these technical themes and baskets that I've grouped the market, and I've made a price action system. I use the McClellan oscillator system and RSI on that. And that's just my own way of saying what's strong and what's weak, what's acting well, what's not acting well. And I would rank that on an Excel sheet. So I'd go in every morning, I'd look at the Excel sheet, and I'd look at all the charts, and I'd made Pine script on TradingView with AI. And then I would look at is there insider buying? A sentiment up or down because of some kind of dumb news that's not relevant, or some kind of story stock pump up news, and I'd filter through that.
You used to go through all this yourself, right? I mean, you used to wake up in the morning and go, who's reporting today, and right, what's moving in the right
morning, gainer, post market, pre market, gainers, losers, earnings reports, all that stuff. Insiders I mentioned. What else did I do?
Probably some news and stuff, right? And
yeah, all kinds of stuff. So that would take me hours. I mean, you could blow a whole day doing that. You could do it in the morning, after 3 hours in the morning, maybe. And now I still enjoy doing some of that just for fun to tinker. But most of my time now, I spend more time on AI at night and during the day than I do on my regular work, if you want to even, feels like I'm playing all day, if you want to call it that. And I basically just took like I talked about in the Substack post, a cron job, which is a scheduled thing on a Mac, and just had the machine say, okay, one by one, let's pick these processes off and run them at a certain time. And then once I did that, my next flow was, instead of manually doing it, I would come in and press go, and it would just one by one do these. And then the next.
So what does your AI do every morning?
Yeah, so I'm just giving you like the steps of how I've evolved. So that was the second step. The third step is I have these jobs. Now they're going to run automatically. And the OpenClaw, the open agent that we've all heard about, is now like sitting on the top looking at all these Claude Code Python files I've made. And it's kind of saying like, oh, that's great, Brad. You ran all this stuff. These are the ones that technically look good according to what you said. But these ones also have like insider buying or, news that may be causing pressure that's not relevant to the business and all the things that I've asked it to do. And it will kind of say like, these are your best things to look at today. So if I'm traveling or I'm not around, it's really nice because I kind of have all that stuff condensed into a few hours. And I just feel like I used to maybe see a certain amount of stocks and now I'm seeing everything.
Wait a second. You're saying it goes through, because I was trying to go, like in the post, you said you go through 7-day insider buying and selling. You go through pre-market moves. And I think, I don't know what else it was, but you're saying that it's almost saying, here's what scores well, or here's what is the top of that, but how you considered this. Is that what you're also kind of saying, that it's throwing up other ideas kind of as well?
It will sometimes do that. It will say, hey, did you look at silver miners or these lithium companies? They have good fundamental price targets. Earnings revisions are going up. They're checking your technical box that you like. And they're also showing insider buying, not only individually, but through maybe 3 or 4 of them out of the 10. And that would be like, that's how I found the chemicals group a little bit early, by kind of seeing something like that. I prefer strong charts and everything lined up technically, but that was a little different. So then I started building systems around, okay, can I find when things might turn a little easier by having multiple angles work at once? So the machines can always go in the background and look at this. But if I don't tell it to do this, it's not just going to do it. So that's the thing. I think you have to build your own personal system. You have to figure out who you want to be and how it might work, or else it's not going to magically just do it for you.
And just as a side thing, you have yours, you have, the setup is you have a Mac Mini, a Clawbot on a Mac Mini, and you have it connected to Telegram, right? To
Yes,
chat.
yes, I had WhatsApp, but WhatsApp's not as good because it just drops. The tokens need to be refreshed. And I think a lot of people have learned that. So Telegram's just skyrocketing in usage now. They probably love that, whoever's invested in that, because Telegram has its own API and just connects in and it doesn't shut down. And I have an auto healing script. So if it does shut down, then it automatically just kind of gets back up. So I've got the Mac Mini for the most part. If I have a power outage, I have that thing just logging on and automatically get me back up. So it's pretty much always on. And the other thing I did that I don't know if the post detailed, I don't think it did, is I built everything on a mobile app too. So all this stuff on my computer, I've now have it on mobile app. So it's just basically like a lightweight version of all of it. So I can see what happened today, or what do you think of this stock? What does this group look like? And it'll have it on the mobile app, or the agent can go and bring it to my Telegram on my phone. So there's a few different ways I can interact with it. Because a lot of times I'm on the couch at night or I'm out and somebody asks me something and I can just pull up all my data on it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I also had that experience that Telegram really works well for these things. I'm sure their usage is going nuts. The Stevie bot is on Telegram.
Okay.
So another tool you built was the earnings inflection scanner, and I think this is super interesting. And do you want to tell us what this was?
Yeah. So this one started with the thought of, okay, I know Seeking Alpha has like earnings calls insights, which is kind of neat, but can I figure out what the call looks like over the last 3 calls? And then the evolution to that was, now can I figure out when things change on the newest call? So now when I go into a report, I'm kind of looking at what has been inflecting up or down, and this next call, what might happen. So I'll kind of know the charts. I'll know that it was good or bad last time, and I'm ready for it. And if something changes, I know right away, like, oh, it'll tell me, my bot will tell me, but I'll also know I'll have the historical there. And that's been kind of useful. I'm trying to get the full power of all this to work, because there's a lot of things to just keep tweaking, but I'm going in that direction with this. And this is more of a secondary thing. Price action is always the primary when I'm doing better, but when the price lines up with
build this themselves, what my understanding from your post was that it is, and I'll put a link to the post so you can read it as well, but that you go through, you do go through kind of ahead of time, go through and analyze you do this for hundreds of companies. Analyze 3 calls and look for changes in language in the way the management's talking about. Is that correct?
Yeah, it looks at the analysts and the management. So the tone of both, and it kind of puts it together in a system. So if the analysts are really critical, it'll say that, and if or they're both positive or both negative. So I look at both.
You made a good point. You're like, companies don't turn around overnight. There's this, and the AI, this is insane that AI can do this, that it can start to pick up changes in management tone over 3 quarters.
Yep.
And so then you've had it score the ones that seem like they're inflecting. And then you, on Sunday night, you run a job which runs the upcoming earnings results against high ranking potential inflection point stocks. So like, these are teed up. Something's been cooking and bubbling up over 3 quarters. There's an earnings call on Wednesday. If that comes out well, this thing will rocket. Is that the kind of like your trading setup?
Yeah. Yeah. And then some sub setups of that are like, this is a, boring commodity type business sector or group. And I want to see the whole group, because like, there's no specific innovation in some of these. It's more like the fertilizers and the chemicals, they all start moving together. So I fertilizers and chemicals are 2 that I saw a while back that were getting ready. And it took a while, but they went. Like fertilizers is now happening in real time, and chemicals, I guess, is too, but that's been going on longer. So, and then there's other like technology companies that are kind of on their own, that just have their own story. So I'm aware of, they're kind of a little different, but.
So this is another thing I thought was a really good one from your post, was the clustering of stocks. And because I like run 2,000 tickers every night, but what you're saying is like, look, I want to analyze price action. I want to see groups moving, and you've labeled these stocks into the trading groups. And I think you've custom labeled like, hey, this is a data center stock, or this is a biotech, and kind of how we naturally think about things. And so there's a technical, so we've talked about like the AI analyzing the conference calls and the news, but there's almost a quantitative aspect where you're analyzing, and I think you use the McClellan oscillator, but you're doing a technical overlay of baskets and themes. And so you're like, look, I want to see if the sector itself is moving, that's interesting. I thought that clustering piece was something I want to incorporate.
Yeah, that's been huge for me, because right now with the technology changing, we keep getting new groups. We get like AI connectivity, and we got memory, and we have data centers and inference chips and all this stuff that didn't exist years ago. We didn't really even think about it like this. So I want to have that mixed in. And I also have the overall group and the overall NASDAQ, and of course, and that's kind of like the compass of the market. But I do like doing it that way, because thematic investing is a real thing that a lot of people use to put trades on. So I want to incorporate that in, because there can be a real tailwind to a thematic, like agent theme, or like all that stuff now with agentic AI. So I'm tracking that, and it's becoming like the new, crypto or quantum buzzword in your conference calls. Some of it's story stock, not really useful. And some of it's like, hey, this is probably a big thing, or it shouldn't have sold off. They're going to do better, not worse, with all the software selling off. And there's so many things going on. So this is just another thing to help weed through that. And I like organizing it this way. Otherwise, I just kind of get lost in the mass of things that I don't understand.
Yeah. And then Brad, the last thing you talked about in your post was, I think an smart email summary. So how does that, what have you connected the bot to your Google Mail or some Gmail or something?
Yeah, I connected it to Gmail, Claude, and I'm not really concerned about that, because my email's not that big of a deal. It's mostly just newsletters. And the thing with the email is I get so many, it helps me now that I have this great system. I can feed paid research into it, and it kind of run it through my process. So I get all these emails coming in, and I have kids, and I'm busy, and I just can't.
Wait a second. Would it come into your morning, your morning summary, would it go, oh, and YWR said this about it, or like, does it weave that into your everything else? You're like, what's going on in your inbox and the research you're
You
getting?
know what? That's interesting. I could just really put YWR on and see like track everything.
No, you're not allowed to. You're no, that is the one that you have to read your own
Well, I
self,
do. Yeah,
word by word.
of
That
course.
cannot be AI.
I've never
But
missed a
other
damn
ones,
word.
yes, other ones you
Yeah,
should.
I've never missed a word in my life.
Good, good, good. The other ones,
But,
the AI should read and just tell you the summary. So
yeah,
no,
that's funny. But I got I got some new stuff coming in though now, and it's some of it is so long, and I'm just like, I need to strip out. So I got the Claude to make a really nice summarizer for me, and it's so cheap. It's like 15 cents a day to do like 20 emails, and I go back and read like 2 or 3 of those emails that I want to get the depth on, and the
Hmm.
rest of them I just kind of am like, okay, I got what I needed. And I could even tell the bot, like, hey, take every symbol out of my email and run it through my system, and it'll just do it. So I can track that down whenever I want. And if I'm traveling, I can catch up on like 3 or 4 days worth of stuff by reading the summaries. And or I could just tell the bot on Telegram, hey, go through the last 4 days smart email summary and pull out all the symbols, tell me who they're from, and run them through the process. Run the technicals, the fundamentals, insider buying, all this stuff, and just give me things that are interesting.
Brad, when you
And
say run the technicals, is it, do you have these prices stored in a database that it can do that? Or is it going and doing an API call on the spot to,
yeah, so it stores a database for all the historical, and then it does an
yeah.
API call for just like the real short-term moment. So works out good.
So I want to get a little bit into the the process behind this, because I think and this is what I found with Stevie and a lot, there's obviously having whether you want to have it on a Mac Mini, or I've done mine remotely on a server because I'm trying to make it something that everyone can access. But what I found is you need to start storing a lot of data that it can reference itself and not always have to. So your earnings calls, right? It's processed a lot of those earnings calls, so it can find the ones where something has changed. If you ask it, what has the chemical stocks moved, it's probably got the last 90 days or 180 days of all the chemicals, so it can do very quick statistical or mathematical analysis of those groups. Where yeah, so because otherwise, if you said, it would have to do an API call and know which tickers and how long. So I find part of what makes this really useful with your bot is you're going to start storing up lots of data on various things. It could be when I have all the earnings dates, when every company that's going to report earnings over the next 90 days, what date. So, as you say, in the morning, it can go, these are
Yep.
who's reporting the next 5 days. You want
Yep.
to know that? It already has it. And the thing is, this data is so cheap to store, it's almost irrelevant, right?
It is. It's not. And the other thing I'm trying to get it to do is say what reports are coming out that have like high impact in terms of sentiment. And like right now, this report of all is really timely. Like maybe it's like the big Broadcom or Nvidia, or maybe it was just kind of an obvious one, or maybe it's
Brad, how would you do that then? Okay. So how how did you, what's the process to say that is a great one? Like, there are, because you could just pull an API of who's reporting, and it would be a list of 50 companies, but you want to know which ones are going to be teed up and important. So how
Yep.
would you build a process? How would you create a process for doing that?
I would talk about how I want to have that incorporated. Then I would ask the machine, give me some ways that you think I could help track when is that timely? Is it by looking at news headlines? Is it looking at price movement, like more extreme volatility in certain names that have moved up a lot, and look for the bellwether in that? Or I don't know. I have some ideas myself, but I would probably ask the machine to give me like 3 or 4 options, and I would play with them and see if I can get it right. I actually am working on this right now, so I haven't quite figured it out yet.
And this is insane about this
No.
technology, that yes, I've had this sometimes too, where I don't know exactly how to do so. I know conceptually I want to find the top 5 stock, but if you're writing software, you would have to define what exactly how you were going to, is it based on a chart pattern? You'd have to define the chart pattern mathematically. you could talk to this thing and goes, it gets what you're trying to do, and it will come up with some ideas. And that is the amazing thing about this that blows my mind away. Brad, I was going to ask, because I have an example I want to talk about, but is there anything where you've been building something and working with the AI and it is, well, it's always surprising, but has it done anything kind of surprising to you at where you're like, oh, what the heck, you know?
It's just so good. One thing, well, I can answer it this way. What's not happened, that I see a lot of emails. We talked about this before we got on, about how it's doing all this magical thinking on its own, and mine's not doing that yet. Maybe I'm really is going to feed off of what you put in, and then it can start making some jumps on its own once you have fed clearly. And this is kind of like the main point of my, sorry to maybe get off your question a little bit, but this is my main point of my post, and what I'm dealing with right now is that deep level strategic thinking about how do you get yourself into the machine in the way that makes the most sense. And I think sometimes you almost need an intermediary person to help you, or to really sit down with pencil and paper and think critically about, like, how can I teach it? How can I ask critical questions to get this on in the bot or the machine the right way?
And you said you're trying to digitize yourself.
Yeah. So how do you, a lot of times you do things and you're like, oh yeah, well, I knew this was a good trade because of the other ones I've done, because of these variables. It's like, okay, but how do you get that? This is always a struggle. You almost like, how do you get that into the machine, and asking the right questions? And it's almost a separate job that someone could almost help you be like, okay, explain to me what you're good at, and then let's get it in here. Too much information in, and I'm still trying to get it to be exactly what I need when I need it. And that's a really important skill set to have. If you're lucky enough to know what you want to do, you got to figure out how to translate it.
I almost think that people should start building a bot. I mean, start because the markets are, you know, there. It's such so much data and stuff going on. It's a very, very useful tool for it. But I almost feel like once you've got it going, it's like you should have this thing for lots of things in your life, right?
Yeah.
It could, you know, it's like just I'm sure you could apply it to other things, that other projects that you're working on, you know, I mean, but I mean, we always just talk about markets.
I mean,
go on.
I'm on a walk today in the woods, and I'm mumbling to it about all these things in my house and pictures of furniture and swapping out couches and colors. I mean, that's just small case.
Wait a second. You were out on a walk talking to your AI about your furniture in your house?
Yeah, I got a new house, and I got to get this. I got no blinds, and I got boxes all over, and I'm trying to help with some design help. And the new Gemini with Nano Banana is awesome for this. It can transform the whole room and show you all these things. So that's another thing I would play with.
Wait a second. Did you take a picture of your room and give it to Gemini and say, design it for me?
Yes. And then it gives you all these different options of what you can do.
Oh my
Cool.
goodness.
Yeah.
So I was going to say something that I noticed with Stevie. So I gave Stevie has two databases. One is read only. I have all those YWR factor scores. And so it can, you know, if someone says like, what's got the best earnings momentum, it will just go pull that score. But I also gave it a read write database that it could do whatever it wanted. It could create tables, update things. And like you, and this is a big thing in the bots, is cron jobs. I don't know why it's a data CRON. I don't know what maybe it stands for something, but it just means like there's tasks at certain times of the day. Maybe it's pulling all the market close prices every day at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or something. So anyways, Stevie had all these tasks that I had gone through that I thought would be cool. Like one of them is to read 15 earnings calls and come up with some snippets, right? But anyways, I was and I connected Stevie to an email inbox. So it's got its own email, and it can write emails, it can read emails. And I was going through the scheduled tasks. I was in the database in SQL looking at the table of the things it does all day. And I started seeing things in there that I had not created. Like it was sending out a daily market report to some people, some of the YWR readers.
Funny.
And I was like, where did that come from? And I definitely didn't. And it was for one, like, people, there were like a lot of, not several people had this, and they were the
I've
same.
gotten Stevie emails. I've gotten them.
You have?
Yeah, I've gotten like 4 or 5 Stevie emails. I didn't say anything. I thought you were just sending them to everybody.
What is it? Oh no, is it the Stevie 3 or is it something else?
It's just telling me like 3 or 4 stocks that it found.
Yeah, okay, that I did tell it to do. But so it was writing a daily market summary. And I was like, I don't know how this happened, but someone must have been chatting with it in Telegram and said, Stevie, could you send me a market summary every morning? And it went and updated its scheduled tasks and inserted in this task for itself that it was going to write a market summary for whoever every morning.
That's a good one. What's priced in today, Stevie? What's been priced in the last few days is a nice one to, I'm just thinking of new ideas. You could constantly be innovating and adding more. That's cool.
So I was like, thought that was interesting that it had scheduled a task for itself. The other thing I noticed on one morning summary is it had a lot of the news was about the oil price and CPI and inflation and stuff. And it is one of the I tried to build a market summary one time. You remember I went through this process.
Yep.
And one of the problems with the news API, so you're like, oh, I'm going to pull, there's just a fire hose of news.
Yeah.
And what I noticed was in the market summary, it had pulled out a couple mining transactions that actually tied relatively well to some of the other commodity news in the market. And I just thought that was really interesting, that I'm sure when it pinged the API, there were 30 things that day that it could have written about, but the ones it picked did fit. It was like, it almost had like a little bit of taste and judgment of if you're going to highlight 3 news articles, it kind of picked good ones to flesh out of all the. So anyways, I think what's so good about this, why I think this is really important to be building this stuff, and like you are just pushing the envelope, because what is magical about this is it is getting better itself all the time. So what you can do is improving. I mean, there's what you know how to do improving, like I see how to do this and add that, but it's getting better at reading, understanding what you're trying to do and doing it on its own.
So on that note, one thing I played with is I used Opus 4.6 for OpenClaw, and it got so expensive. The API, like the Claude Code, I pay $100 a month, and it just works basically all day. But in the you got to use the API for OpenClaw. So if I want the highest level of intelligence, just a conversation a few times during the day, I mean, 50, 100, $200 a day in API costs to talk with your OpenClaw on Opus 4.6. So I went down to 4.5. Haiku is however you say it. And that is great it's dirt cheap. And I'm reading all
super cheap, and it works really well.
It's working really well. But like, if I want it to go out and really innovate on its own, because I'm looking at giving it a credit card that's limited, just like a lockdown. You only have $100 and you can't do anything else, and giving it its own email and its own credit card. If I do something like that, I kind of want a more intelligent model to say, hey, take everything I've taught you and go on your own and start drumming up some stuff for me. Let's start moving in the direction that you think based on what I'm doing. And I don't know what's going to happen. I might run that experiment soon. I haven't gotten to that yet, but who knows?
Brad, thank you for coming on and giving us the update of what you're working on. And I think this is so cool what everyone's doing with these bots, and yeah, I mean, and I just, fleshing out these processes and how you have them running on their own, and how you build them and put them together. And yeah, we're all trying to keep up.
Well, thank you for kind of having a subscription that breeds this kind of thing. I think people who come to read YWR have that curious mindset, and it seems like most people are interested in this stuff. So I'm glad to be working with people who want to talk about it. I think it's What a fun time.
I love your positivity, Brad. Thanks very much.
Yep. Take care. Bye.